Hey, everybody. Welcome to Geeky KOOL Presents The Professor and Ace. Oh, let me throw up our banner here for us. That's not the one that I'm looking for. Wouldn't you know it? There we go. Geeky KOOL Presents The Professor and Ace. And I'm back this week. Had some issues the last couple weeks. A huge 100-year-old oak tree fell through the middle of my house at 5:15 in the morning. And luckily, everybody was okay. Everybody's safe. So now I'm doing this not from my really cool geek room, but from my son's bedroom. So these are Minecraft sheets behind me. We've got a little Tremel bed here. So this is where I'm doing it today. We'll see if we get a more formalized geek place for us. Of course, I've always got Ace here with me. You and Schmoot, you, man, I say his name wrong every time, and I know it. That's
Call him the
what
scallywag. Call him
the
the
scallywag, but
scallywag.
it's spew. Oh my gosh, how am I? How do I do that every time? I can say it right 100 times.
Listen, it's real easy. Shoo, shoo.
Spew,
That's
spew.
it.
Right. Every time I say it right, but then I go to talk to him, and then I stumble all over it. I don't know. Anyway. So
He's
you guys did a great job the last 2 weeks. I watched the shows. You guys were amazing. I appreciate the scallywag stepping in and taking over. And you guys had some great conversations.
the thing is he doesn't really have much of a choice. Like his girlfriend will. He
If your girlfriend asks you to do it, yeah, you gotta come do it. Plus,
doesn't.
I don't think he minds it.
He doesn't. He loves geeky stuff, so he's all good. He loves it. He's not here tonight. He's like out. He took his daughter home. We've had her for a week and a couple days for Father's Day. So he took her
Right.
home, and he's not here. So I'm just here at my house all by myself, and I decided to
All
be
right.
with my part of my living room. I decided to switch it up a little bit. So yeah,
And for people that don't know, AJ has a living room that's decorated in different comics there from.
I have my DC wall,
Mhm.
Marvel wall, and then this is my anime wall with I have like any of my ones that don't quite fit into those two categories. So I have like my Doctor Who and my Labyrinth, and then I have my Studio Ghibli and you know all those because
That is awesome.
I'm just a big nerd. It's all good.
Well,
This is my living
I
room.
think we both are. That's why we're here at a place called Geeky Cool. Oh, and for those of you that did not know, GeekyKOOL.com is back. We're still making some tweaks to it, but we got the site back. We were missing a little bit of information, about 2 months, but we're going to be replacing some of that we can, getting it backdated in. So bear
Yay!
with us, but we are back. New articles and reviews and movie trailers are coming in daily. So make sure you come out and check us out.
I unfortunately do. I write all my articles. This is you guys are gonna laugh at me, but on my smartphone. Like I
Mhm.
go on to. I don't even put it on the computer. I just go onto it on my smartphone and just type it out and then post it and publish it. So none of my articles were backed up. So I didn't have any copies of them. I don't. I'm gonna have to start doing that. But I don't write them out, and
Well, it
so it's lost that I can't find. I can't find, and I'm sorry.
Well, and there is a backup site that I was given access to be able to pull up some of the information. Not all of it's there, but at least some of it. So we'll be working on that, and I feel really bad. And for those that don't know, basically the site that did the hosting for us, they were viciously attacked by malware, by ransomware. I don't know how many millions of dollars the people wanted, and they basically had to shut everything down. And this also led to us coming to a new hosting site. So now
Yeah.
we're on a new hosting site, and
Yay.
it'll be all good.
Sometimes change. Sometimes you have to change. No,
You
so
do.
here's the thing. I have some artist spotlights that I've been wanting to post, but I haven't been able to because we haven't been on. We haven't had the opportunity to post. So those are coming up this week. And I'm going, I have like a couple reviews that I've done and a couple lists that I've done that I have actually written out. And then, like you laughs because he knows that's like a big thing for me. Because literally, I type it out on my phone. I do. It's a thing.
Well, and I usually type it directly on my computer, but directly into the WordPress into WordPress. So I don't usually do another backup either. So that's also going to be a challenge. But where there weren't regular backups being done previously, I now have control over that. So there'll be weekly backups, and there will be other things, other advantages with coming to the new site. And we wish well the old site, and it was just time for us to leave, and it wasn't really fitting their needs or our needs. So, we wish them well, and we're happy that we found a place, and we're going to move forward and hope that, or we're going to believe that this is not going to happen again, that we're going to have outage like this. So,
right.
because the site that's hosting us is super well. The security is top notch. It comes highly recommended. It's got like 5 stars from everybody. So, and they specialize in sites like ours. So that's the advantage. So we're excited to have them. So, oh, we've got some comments coming in already, AJ. We've not even started talking about the main issue. So, and we've got 3 people watching. So we're excited to have viewers tonight. Oh, look, here we go. We've got John. Hey, John. We're glad to have you here. John is one of our writers here at Geeky KOOL. Him and his girlfriend both are on here with us, and we're so glad you're here with us, John. So keep watching, and yeah. So and everybody, feel free to give comments. We are going to be talking a little controversial tonight because we're going to talk politics, but not bashing any side or talking specifically about personal politics, but talking about the politics of comics. So it's not our comfort area. It's usually a taboo message for Geeky KOOL. We usually keep it PG, and we keep politics out of it because we don't want to isolate people. And we've got Mr. Keith. Hey, Keith. Yeah, the tree did try to take me out, and it missed. And I'm glad it missed my kids. My cat's okay, and my Mustang's okay. So I'll survive.
Kids, the cat, and the Mustang.
Well, that's the important thing. The wife and kids, group them together for family, and then the cat. That's an important one, and he was hiding, and then the Mustang. But yeah, when you have So when they cut the tree off my house and it went from the backyard to the front yard, one of my friends had said it was a tree that wanted to be a front yard tree. So it just came crashing through. And
relocate.
Right, it relocated. So it even knocked branches off the front yard tree that it came down so hard. So this humongous tree was so big that the last 6 feet of the trunk weighed 4,000 pounds when they lifted it by crane.
I'm just glad because I know it hit your kids' room.
Right? It did.
I'm just glad that their beds and they were not in harm's way. Like it.
Right.
Like you guys got blessed. That is like, yeah. That's scary.
It is scary. We were, and my daughter's bed 2 weeks before was right where the tree came in. We moved it because of a TV issue. She actually got a TV in her room. She's 19, and we gave her a TV. And because of where we had to mount the TV, her bed got moved. And if it hadn't been moved, yeah.
Yeah.
So a couple more. John. Thank you, John. Yes, it's your fiance. Now, how long has she been your fiance? Because I seem to remember it's been like, I don't know. Of course, she's only like 12 anyway. But did you become fiancés back when she was first born, John? I'm giving John crap. John and I go way back. All right, controversial, Keith says. Yes, we're going to be a little controversial. And, thank you, Keith. Thank you. I actually, the COVID-19 is a very real thing for me. So I've got to start taking care of that. Of course, this tree business kind of interfered with what I was trying to start doing, working out, but I'm going to get back and hopefully look better.
It's a thing. COVID-19, I've gained 19 pounds.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I lost last year. I lost 40 pounds. I gained 19 of them back. I'm very upset.
well, it's difficult. This has been a difficult time for us all with that. So
Okay.
all right. So we're gonna jump into this real quick. So basically, this all came because of a post that AJ had posted, a meme that she was not trying to be controversial necessarily, trying to make people think.
I mean, see, I don't want like I hate the word controversial with anything that I do because it's when I do it, it's not meaning to alienate anyone and it's
Right.
not to hurt anybody's feelings or make anybody feel like attacked. When I post things, especially when I post things that can be hot button topics, I
Right.
post them. One, I posted this one because I was having a discussion with somebody else on their post, and basically, this is a he's a he's a conservative. I have no problem with that. I have lots of conservative friends. I am not a conservative, um, but I have lots of friends who are conservatives, and I respect their opinions and their point of views. But on his thing, he started to attack my kid and my kids, the kids that I've helped raise, not just my
Mhm.
child, but the ones that I've helped raise, and was saying that they needed to take lessons from the comic book heroes on how they're dealing with things. And I found this meme, and this meme was like, if you don't understand that Captain America fought the Nazis, which is considered the alt right, and if you don't understand that Star Wars is about a rebellion, and like, and that's what it was meant for. I got a lot of backlash
Hmm.
for this post. I've got a lot of people, most of it I will say this: most of it was people, if they had a problem with it, they would either post on the thing or they would send me a message privately. Only two of them got kind of nasty.
Right.
Most of them were like, "Are you? Do you think I'm a Nazi because of the Captain America alt right?" Um, I do not. I think there's a difference between the Nazi alt right and conservatives.
Right. Right.
There's in my head, and so when I said alt right or the meme. I didn't actually write the meme. It's just something I found. When the meme said alt right, in my head that they were talking about Captain America and the Nazis.
Right.
It was
Right.
a attack on a political party.
Right.
It did just throw me into discussions about comic books,
Hmm.
about the history of comic books, about where they came from, and not just comic books, because in that meme it talks about Star Wars. And then
Right.
I had conversations about other children's cartoons and
Hmm.
manga and like Full Metal Alchemist back here. I have a
Yeah.
poster. It is one of the most popular animes there is, and it's
Hmm.
about the Nazi Party. It's about the fight against the Nazi Party, even though you don't realize this until further in. But that's what it's about. So I the professor came to me and was like, I think we should have this discussion on
And you're like, I'm getting enough backlash. I really don't want to talk about it.
right? I'm and that's the thing. Um, when I post things, I'm allowed my opinion. You're allowed
Mhm.
your opinion. If we disagree, that's fine.
Yeah.
I do not insult anyone. I've only had to since everyone is so politically charged right now or
Yeah.
emotionally charged about the political issues, whichever way you want to consider it. Um, I've only had to block two people for this reason, and one of them used huge slurs against my child. Um, I'm a mama.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't can't slur my child. I'm not going to
Right.
accept that.
Right.
And if you do that, I'm going to block you. You still have your opinion. You have the right to it, but I'm going to block
Right.
you.
Right.
Other
Right.
just full out came at me on Messenger with like I got called things that I haven't been called by my ex husbands. Like there are words that they got thrown out at me because I'm a liberal. Um,
Oh.
And the thing is like, I'm allowed to be a liberal. If you're conservative, you're allowed to be a conservative. In this
Right.
country, we're allowed those things. So
Right.
yes, but the meme is what gave you the idea for this episode.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It did. And the interesting thing, and I find this true of a lot of memes, the facts part of the meme was right,
Yes.
but there was an underlying attitude, and you didn't mean this attitude, but I could read into what other people were perceiving it to mean, or probably what the creator of it meant for it to be, because I have a disdain for memes in general, unless it's just really a comical one, and that's all it is. But if it's a political meme or anything else, I find that they typically are used to be as divisive as possible.
Right.
People will post things in a manner to try to get their side all charged up. Yay, look at that. And then the other side to go, what? You're horrible. I can't believe you'd say that. Oh, and that's now, and again, AJ didn't mean that at all. That was not where she was coming from. I knew that when I talked to you that that was not what you meant.
Right.
But I could see some of the reactions of people.
I tell people all the time, and I told you this just a minute ago because you said that, and I was like, if it's coming on my page, if I'm
Right,
posting it, if
right,
I see on somebody else's page that I disagree with, there are people in this nerd world that I know personally who are very conservative,
right,
who post things all the time about their conservative views, and even if I disagree with them, if I know that I can have a discussion with them, I will have a discussion with them. But I also know their hearts, and I
right,
know
right.
that it meant it to be an insult to me. You are having issues.
I
I'm
was just trying to see if I could move that.
I'm gonna say something to the people who responded who thought I was insulting them. When I post something on my page, it's either something I believe in, more than likely, or I find it funny, which I hardly ever post funny things. If you know me, I don't. I'm not comical. Um, so it's something that I believe in. You don't have to believe in the same thing I do. But I'm not insulting anyone. And if
Right,
anything I ever say you feel insulted by, one, you should look at who posted it. If you
right,
know me and you've had conversations with me, you know that I am probably one of the most respectful people when it comes to differences. If you have a different point of view than mine, I will listen to you. Like I was telling you, I had a hour and a half conversation right before we went on here with someone who is very conservative, um, political party completely different than mine, um, religious beliefs completely different than mine, and we had a political conversation that lasted an hour and a half.
right,
Arguments or anything like that. We weren't disrespectful to each other. So
right,
if
right,
post disrespectful, I apologize for that. If you thought it was a personal attack, part of me goes, okay, you should look at who posted it, and part of me what is if the part that you found was a personal attack was the facts, then I'm not going to apologize for that.
right,
If it's the facts that you found it was a personal attack, that I said that Star Wars was a movie about a rebellion, that's a true statement. That's not a lie. And I'm
right,
not going to apologize for that. If you felt like I personally attacked you in any way, I do apologize for that part. But I'm not going to apologize for the facts of my statement. The statements, though they might have been written harshly, the history of comics was true.
right. I agree with that, and I know your heart. I know where you're at, and I know that you would never be vicious or mean to people on purpose. And the only time you would do that is if, again, if they're attacking your child or attacking somebody you care about or something like that. Which I think we're all there.
Yeah.
And in fact, if I saw somebody attacking your son, I would go and defend him, even if I agreed with a statement the person was making. If they're doing it maliciously, there's no reason for that.
Yeah. And I think
And
I actually had a conversation. Well, actually, I had a conversation with the scallywag when we first started dating. And he said something to me, and he's like, if I hurt your feelings, I actually it was before we were dating, but he was like, if I hurt your feelings, no, that's not my intent. And then I like went right on to like talking to him, and he was like, are you okay? And I was like, listen, I take in account people's intention.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
if intention is to open up a dialogue, that's my intention. It is not to insult
Right.
you. And if you ask me that, I will tell you that. If I have intent to insult you, I don't do it very often, but I will tell you that yeah, no, that was my intention. I think I'm open book, you guys, and if anybody knows me, when I say that, you can basically ask me any question about any subject, and I I hate lying. It's one of the things that I just despise more than anything, and I will just tell you the truth. If it's personal, it depends on how personal you're getting, but pretty
right.
much I'm open about everything. So
Yep.
attention is a big
No,
thing. So,
I'm right there with you. So I'm kind of blatant about the now. If people people don't typically get me angry, but if they get me angry, then I will come out after you, and I won't stop. I will get malicious. I will get dirty, and you will realize that I have really, especially verbally, roughed you up. Doesn't happen very often. It
right.
doesn't happen for most people. My daughter has seen it once because she pushed things too far when she was like in sixth grade, going the year from hell.
Only girls.
The right. So
Sixth grade is
I'm
me.
just saying, most people don't won't ever see that, and I won't be malicious with you. But if you push things, you go after people I care about, or even just people in general,
Right.
then I can get nasty if I need to. Again, most people won't see that, but anyway. So
So now,
I think that's a good basis, and we're probably going to have to divide this up into multiple sessions.
yeah.
But wanted to just talk a little bit about the politics comics because there is a view out there, and I've heard this said. We just need to get back to where politics are in comics, and I think people misunderstand what their comics were. And politics doesn't always, it's not always in your face, and it's not always about a political party being good or bad. Unfortunately, we've made politics so much about that nowadays. Right now, if you're a big pro Trump fan, then anybody that disagrees with you is wrong. If you're a big pro Biden fan, anybody that disagrees with you is wrong. And you look at each other as enemies. And it was never intended for us to be enemies on politics. It should be about open ideas and discussions and trying to figure out what's best. And we've really made it sides, which is really troublesome. Now, historically, people talk about, well, this country is divided like it's not been divided for. Well, one, the Civil War is pretty divided. So you've got that. But even if you look at
Just
the
his
mid 19 teens, so like 100 years ago, this country was horribly divided along politics of the two parties.
well,
And people wouldn't talk to each other if you were on the other side at times. So this country's gone through this before. It's not our first rodeo with it. We just kind of need to get back to it's okay to disagree. And guess what? I'm actually learned something by disagreeing with somebody.
right. The thing is our country has been this divided.
Yeah,
Throughout history, going back to the birth of our country, the revolution,
right, right,
the colonists who wanted a new country, and we had the ones who wanted to stay under the
right,
influence of England.
right.
So right there, our country was based on that. We had the civil rights, we had women's suffrage, we had,
Mhm.
um, we had the emancipation, then women's suffrage, then civil rights, um, and then we had, you know, gay and lesbian rights, and we had all of this. All of these things have been going on. The
Right.
difference, the big difference, is there are three big differences that I can think of. One is our ability to see many, many points of view within seconds. Social media bombards us with the inner thoughts and political views of everyone we know. Whereas back in the day, this is the second one, back in the day, I was even raised that you don't talk about certain things. There's mixed company, if there's a boy and girl in the room, if there's boys and girls, you never talk about sex. Ever. If you're in a room and you don't understand or don't know the people, you don't talk about religion ever, and you don't talk about politics ever, because you don't know where they stand. The problem with that being is then you never learn anybody else's stance.
Right.
Third issue is because our country and the world have had all of these issues for so long. All of these issues. I don't care whether you believe the right or the left. I don't care your political party. These are not new issues. These are issues that have been going on for hundreds of years, even before our country. In other countries, they were going on, and I think that every generation, every age has these generations. In the 60s, it was the hippies, in
Right.
the 20s, it was the women suffrages. In the 1800s, it was the, anti-slaves. All of these things, the 50s and 60s, you had like, the marches and the civil rights, and all of these things are things that are constantly going on. And this is
Right.
just this generation's time to that they're using as their platform.
Right.
Different than my mom marching in the 70s. It's no different than me. I did like fundraisers for um, the LGBT community back before it was considered the LGBT community in like the 80s. Like
Right.
it's the same thing. I was a teenager, 80s and 90s, and I did fundraisers for that stuff.
Right. Right.
Thing, and I comic books, comic movies, manga, children's TV shows and stuff have always, not all of them, but a lot of them have always had underlining political views of their creators, whether it's injustice of like the X-Men. X-Men is all about equality and like they're fighting for to be equal, but and you have Professor X, who is very much wanting everybody to be equal. And then you have Magneto, who, and I called him, and it was hilarious. I called him in one of my posts the anti-villain, because
Right.
Magneto is not a villain. He is and he isn't. He's someone who he wants his own equality, but he also doesn't care how he gets it. And
Right.
so he's a villain. Those two are a great view on political inequality.
Right.
Just because somebody's different than you doesn't mean they don't deserve the same rights as you. And that's the whole point of the X-Men.
Right.
That's the fight of the X-Men is to. There's a reason that their first enemies were just regular humans. First class kind of thing, like humans didn't understand them and wanted to, because they were mutants and they were different.
Right. Right.
Other comic books have always had these things. There are certain comic books that are literally written to show the political parties or the political beliefs of a certain group at the time that they were created.
Right.
America was created to like showcase America's power against the Nazi Party.
Right.
Like,
well,
like
the interesting thing with Captain America, well, of course, both creators were Jewish.
Yes.
So you have that, and so of course that's going to be a big deal to them.
Right.
This was before Captain America was before we entered World War II. Let me show you the comic book. I know AJ knows it. for those that are watching that may not be familiar with the very first ever Captain America, there we go. So it has, and this is before his round shield. This is his more triangle shield here. But first issue, punching Hitler. And at this point, Hitler had just won Man of the Year like 2 years before, or 3 years before. So he was not necessarily unpopular in America because we hadn't seen what all was going on, and a lot of Americans did not want to enter another war.
Well, that, and the interesting thing about Hitler is his popularity. Like, people now, when you say Hitler, you just think this horrible, horrible, horrible man who did horrible things to millions of people, and and that's what people think of. But when he first came into power in Germany, um, England aligned with them. All these people aligned with them. America did not hate him. Like, celebrities were following him, and
Right.
what he believed in, what he spoke of. Um, it took people who knew what was really going on behind the wall that Germany had built. Not the wall, but you know what I mean. The wall of propaganda that had been thrown out, and people who were there, and then their families and stuff. It took them to realize that it was a fascist state that he was creating, and Captain America started. Hitler had just been named Man of the Year. He was still very high in popularity, not in the country, but world. And two Jewish creators of a comic book saw him as a fascist and saw him as someone who was Jewish, and they created Captain America to fight that.
Right.
Part of the thing I people get, and part of the thing that frustrated me about my post so much was that I know this history, and I know that some people do and some people don't, who like got it. I realized Captain America came out before we got into the war. Most people don't realize that. They seem
I knew you did.
But
I knew you did.
Yeah. It's
yeah.
I'm a
Well, yeah, we're both kind of history buffs, along with being comic nerds and geek nerds in general. So no. So comic books, and that's what we're going to talk about is kind of the politics of comics, because that was a big political statement. That was not a popular statement necessarily. So comic books have been making unpopular statements, and actually even before that. So let me show you another one here. Let me find it over here on my scroll. Okay, here's the Superman. It may have been from the very first Superman. Oh, come on. So basically, Superman breaks into this room where a guy is beating his wife or girlfriend, and Superman sticks it to him and basically throws him through a wall.
Which nowadays people would be like, well, that's not a big statement. But look at when Superman came out.
Right, exactly.
When Superman came out, it was not. It shouldn't have been right at any point, and it wasn't right at any point. But it wasn't abnormal for.
It was more accepted.
Yeah, divorce was not something that you did very often. If you were a divorced woman or man, like more woman than man, it was a thing. Women had not had their rights for as long, and they were still expected to be housewives who obeyed their husband. It wasn't until like the 40s and 50s that the word obey was taken out of a lot of marriage ceremonies. It's still in some. Like, there are still religions, and I have nothing wrong with that. If that's your religion and you believe in it and you're consenting age, I don't care. But it didn't matter if he was beating his wife. There was a time in America and in all over the world that was something that was just okay, he's beating his wife. It was the same as like taking your kids' toys away from them now. It was that thing. And so that's an injustice. That is something that Superman, that statement there was huge for kids.
Right. Right.
Because if back in the day, more boys read comics than girls.
Mm-hmm.
Still a thing. But I'm just not normal. But
Well, who wants to be normal? That's boring.
I know. But for a boy, say when that comic came out, who was raised with a dad who may or may not have been abusive to
Right.
his mom, to see someone stand up for a woman,
Mm-hmm.
that's a huge statement. And they're not.
It
It's
is.
not like a political statement. It's not like Superman came out and was like, "I will." It was 3 pictures,
Mm-hmm.
but it possibly could have changed the trajectory of somebody's life.
Right.
And comics and cartoons, good ones that stick with us, and not just comics and cartoons, but movies, Star Wars, and those things that stick with us teach us a lesson, and those are lessons that these comics teach you.
Right.
And
Right.
yeah, but there was a time that would have been totally normal, and that would have been
Right.
like you would have right, and Superman steps in and says, "Don't look away from this. Stop it."
Right.
Yeah.
Which at that time was a huge political statement.
Oh,
A
yes.
huge thing. So politics again have been a part of comic books. Now, the great thing with I think comic books is no matter where you're at politically, you can read those, and sometimes you take more out of it or not. But also, it can challenge you, just like any good book or
Yeah.
anything in the arts. It can challenge where you're at, and so and it doesn't matter political parties. It matters where you're at, and if you're willing to kind of read something to kind of broaden your mind with it.
Well, and not only that, but like I get, like I said, I'm liberal, but I have a lot of conservative friends. Um, the statements that I have made here have no political parties.
Right.
They are a woman should not be beat by her husband. Hitler should have been hit by Captain America. These, these
Right.
are not that are politically driven when I'm saying them. They are injusticely driven. Like when I
Right.
see injustice, I call it out. And I learned that from comic books.
Right.
Like I learned how to be like Wonder Woman taught me to be strong enough as a girl to say these things.
Right.
Princess Leia taught me that a girl can do anything a guy can do, and then sometimes better. And
Very much so with Princess Leia.
these things are things I learned from these, and my kids learn things from. My son learned from Full Metal Alchemist.
Right. Right.
That's what they're for. They're entertainment, but they should also make you think.
Right. As any good art should.
Yeah.
So it's talking about Wonder
What else?
Woman.
Yeah.
Here's one of her. So very early on Wonder Woman making those statements.
You put up Wonder
So
Woman there.
what?
The thing is, it's like I think part of who I am, and part of the reason that I can talk to people about their other views is because of these books and stuff.
Right.
I think what is missing in our society because we're so focused on political parties that we're not
Mm-hmm.
focused on right and wrong beliefs as a
Right.
country. We want to
Right.
tear each other down instead of taking it and having an open discussion.
Right.
Our heroes and even some of our villains have taught us this.
Right.
I learned Magneto, like I learned as much from Magneto as I did from Professor X. I did. Now, am I gonna go out and like bother people because they're not like me. No, but I can see the injustice and the frustration that Magneto has with his
Right.
and I can um Thanos. If you're looking at like just more of a like if you know the comic, but Thanos is a really good villain because he's
Mm-hmm.
also an anti-villain. He
Right.
does the wrong thing for the right reason.
Right.
And I find that sometimes you don't have to be it doesn't have to be villainized. You don't have to be villainized if you have a different belief system.
Right.
You just have to listen to my opinion, perspective on if you want to. Like if you don't want to, just say I don't want to hear it. Okay, doesn't mean I have to say it. Just
Right.
like I wouldn't
Right.
expect you to not.
That's exactly right. You know,
I get passionate.
it's
Passionate.
really easy if you don't want to hear someone's opinion. You either don't hang out with them or don't read their Facebook posts or skip over them. I mean, it's really easy to do that. Now, I learn a lot more from people that disagree with me because it challenges me, and I like to be challenged. So it causes me to think and try to figure out why do I believe this. And over time, that's changed some things, but it's also solidified some things in me. I'm like, okay, this is why I believe this, and I know some of my friends disagree with me on this, but I believe this very adamantly because I have researched it and I know why this is important to me. So,
Exactly.
so, and comics should be able to do that. Now, comics were intended for kids originally, but we
Right.
also know any good story, that the kids story can also teach adults things. And I know
Right.
we've made it more of an adult thing in the past generation that comics are unfortunately not a lot of kids are reading comics. So let me throw a couple more things up here at us, and we'll talk a little bit more, and then we'll probably come back because I had a whole 2 pages of points to go over. We haven't really hit any of them, and that's okay. As I told Ace before we began, I knew this is probably what was going to happen. We're going to get talking, and then we'll come back to these points later. So maybe next week, or maybe we'll something else to talk about next week, and then come back to this. I don't know. So Stan Lee, who is one of my idols,
Yes.
because I'm a writer and I wanted to become a writer because Stan Lee wrote comics and he wrote Spider-Man and all these other things that I loved. And the fact that you could do that, so that had ingrained in me to be a writer. Stan Lee would post every month in every comic book an article. Stan Soapbox. It was also known as some other things. And you can't see this one so well, but this one does talk about bigotry, talk about discrimination. Stan was known for this, and this was at a time where that message wasn't always that popular. Stan didn't always come out and slap you in the face with his character saying stuff, but
Right.
he'd have a page. And I knew people that would skip the articles. I always read what Stan had to say. It always kind of challenged me. Even when Stan was a little older writing those, I always thought they were fascinating. Just one, because I wanted to learn more from Stan Lee. Um, the other thing, and in saying this, people also have to know um, all of the creators at one point for DC and Marvel and most of the big companies were based in New York City. Is the way the whole printing thing happened. Now they're actually almost all based in Los Angeles, but most of the writers and artists are doing it from home. They're not actually in the office. But you used to have to live in New York City. And so if you think about New York City politics, that typically they're more of a liberal political view, you're going to get a lot more of that in comics because your creators, not all the creators were that way, but if people are thinking, well, why is this character, why are we seeing these things? It's because this is how the creators thought, this is where their political worldviews were. And so that's kind of the basis of a lot of the starting of comic book characters.
Well, and a lot, and not all, but there are a lot of in this history. This is history. This is not just like me throwing this out there. A lot of comic book creators and artists um, were tied to like those political parties, or they had Jewish descent
Right.
stuff, and
Right.
then I'm talking about like the 1930s and the
Right.
1940s when
Right.
these were very much. Just think about this. This is where we are right now with the the people of color fight and for rights is where they were in for
Right.
Jewish rights.
Right.
Not in our country, but in the world. And
Right.
so they would fight things that affected them, but they did it in a way that it wasn't always in your face.
Right.
Sometimes it was so underlying you couldn't understand it until you read back now and you're like, whoa.
Right.
But as a
Right.
kid, you didn't get it. You just fighting for justice
Right.
and
Right.
for freedom and for stuff. And so, yeah, yes, in New York back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, were it was very liberal. Um, Parts of New York still are like that,
Mhm.
but not all of them. Now it's more the West Coast is very liberal and
Right. Right.
East. Um, that also is a weird thing. I've been seeing like a lot of people posting about political parties and stuff. Political parties is where they stand right now weren't necessarily where they always were.
Right.
Um,
No, that's true.
Things have changed, like shifted, and anytime going forward, things should shift and they should change for the better. Hopefully, not for the worse. And
Right.
that's the big thing that I think a lot of the comic book character or creators wanted to put into their character was that one person. It just takes one person, and yes, they might be a superhero, but it takes one person to stand up for what's right to change
Right.
for the.
Right.
That gets missed a lot.
Well, kind of the whole origin story of Spider-Man, right?
Yeah.
If he would have just done the right thing that one time, it would have saved Uncle Ben.
Yep. I mean, and then Spider-Man has the Uncle Ben thing. I mean, he has the Gwen Stacy. So
Right.
poor
He
totally
does.
out as a person, but a wonderful, wonderful
So
character.
we've got a couple more comments here. So let's bring these up here. This one's from John, talking about the hurricane that hit his ex-girlfriend's house and the tree came through, lifting the garage off the foundation. Wow, that's crazy. So John's gone through something similar to what I have. Well, luckily we didn't hit the garage because that's where the Mustang was. And the kids survived, so the cat. So but the Mustang's all right. So that's all good. And here's what Keith has to say: "The Hard Traveling Heroes" by Denny O'Neil. Yeah, and Denny. Yeah, those guys. That's true. And actually, we're going to talk about that, Keith. I've actually got an image from one of those, from those guys right there. So let's bring this up, because I wanted to add some visuals for people so they can. This is in the 70s. This is, the civil rights movement is still going. It was after Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, but it's still going. Things were getting better, but things were still having issues. I look at things now and I'm like, why did we accept this? This is not okay, because didn't we settle this in the civil rights movement initially? And so it frustrates me as a person to know that other people are still having to fight for these rights, because I don't see it as it should be something everybody has just in general. We should just accept it as general. But I know
That's the
what.
thing. But that's the thing. You think it should be a general thing. I think it should be a general thing. Like I think people should have rights.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but we see every day, and I don't care your political views on this. You see every day that there are people of either people of color or people who identify different sexually or
Mhm.
gender or any of that stuff. Women still have, we're still not getting paid the same as men in the same jobs. It's better. Everything is a little bit better than it was, but it's still not to where in on my mind I'm like, it should be way better than this.
Right, right. No, I'm with you. It's 2020. This
Yeah.
stuff should be taken care of, guys. But and again, we're trying not to get too much political in our own views here. And just so people know, I'm definitely on the right of AJ. I'm definitely not a hardcore person, but I'm definitely more rightist than AJ on a lot of stuff. Definitely not alt right. That's crazy stuff. I'd punch a Nazi in the face too if I saw him. But all right, so here's an image from Green Lantern, and I have written down somewhere what the issue is, but it is the early '70s, and it's actually Green Lantern and Green Arrow. Green Lantern sales were horrible, and in case you guys cannot see it, basically it goes in and talks about, Mr. Lantern. I hear you do all these things for these people of all these other worlds, the purple skins, these skins, this skin. What have you ever done for the black skins? And I'm like, wow, that's. And basically he says he can't tell him anything that he's done, and that's a very moving page in the '70s, very politically charged at the time, of a hero in Green Lantern. Typically in the comics, Green Lantern has been a very conservative guy, very much a policeman, a rule follower. He's going to enforce the rules. Green Arrow has kind of been the really kind of wacky liberal wing, but these guys are buddies, and they've been buddies, and they've challenged each other through the years, which gives me hope that in our country we can get back to people being buddies and friends that are on opposite political views, because you can challenge each other there. But that right there is an extremely politically charged comic book scene in, still in the civil rights movement. So
Right.
that so to say comics aren't political, they were political here, and we were showing you some areas where they were political before. What else do we have here? Here's a Superman, basically talking about, hey kids, if someone's telling you that this person is not an American because they're of different race or they're a different religion, that's not true. And this was just kind of at the end of a comic that wasn't actually part of the story, but it was a message that DC wanted to get out, that, hey, people, stop and think. So comics were used in a way to try to get people, especially kids, to look at things with more of an equal view there.
Well, and it's like in that he's like, okay, so it doesn't matter their race and it doesn't matter their religion or their national origin.
Right,
Like
right.
in America, and they're like an American citizen, they're an American citizen.
Right,
And
right.
what I like about that is it's the PCA or PSA. It's the public service announcement. Remember those from like the '80s, the
Oh yeah.
shows on
Oh yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
It was just a PSA at the end of a comic that just was like, okay guys, so you love me, let me put a little of this out there. But it was very political. It wasn't like, it's not political parties.
Right,
None of
right.
talked about as political parties, but it is about the creators of these superheroes putting out part of their political view, and they
Right.
create heroes because either in their life they felt injustice,
Hmm.
or they saw injustice in the world and they wanted. It's a way of creating a better world, um, because you actually create the world.
Right, right.
Same, same with writers. Same, it's the same reason people write books. Um, they want to create a new world. It could be a better world. It could be a worse world, but it's something like that. Yep, got the.
So I didn't mean to click on it. I clicked on it to start with. So the first gay marriage in comics right there, Moonlighter, no, Midnight, and Apollo. That's the names. Interestingly, the first outed comic characters, that goes back to North Star in Alpha Flight. And really funny thing is, I read Alpha Flight because it was from the creative team from X-Men. So I wanted to read it, and right away, if you're paying attention in the comics, you pick up that he's gay, probably within the first 10 issues. Kind of
Right.
because he and his twin sister have little things that they're saying back and forth to each other, and you're like, That sounds like he likes guys. Okay. And it really didn't matter because you're like, okay, I like his character and I like this group and I don't really care. And so it wasn't until, so that was in 83 that it came out. And he didn't actually go fully out public out of the closet until 92, but the first outed character was in 92. So again, something very politically charged, especially late 80s, early 90s time, very politically charged. So
And here's the thing about it is he's a character that was written like you said, like when you read the first ones, if you read them and you have any inkling, it's not out there.
right,
It wasn't like his sexuality was hidden. It's
right,
not like
right,
they changed his character
right,
to
right,
fit like aspect to fit into a political change. His
right, right,
character was written that way. They didn't out him
right,
until, and this is weird, but they didn't out him until it was acceptable in society
right,
for a celebrity to come out.
right.
It's these
Hmm?
things that we're talking about and these things that comics talk about are things that go on in the world when they're created.
Right.
And
That's true.
that's why that's why things have to change. Captain America can't be fighting the Nazis in 2020. That's why it's to fight Thanos.
Well,
Like because these are
maybe he
like
can now. I don't know.
he may, but you know what I mean. Like things have to change, but they are
Right,
when they're created, at how they're created. Um, he was a gay superhero.
right.
It was
From the
obvious.
beginning. Right,
He couldn't come out as a gay superhero until the 90s.
right. It's true.
Celebrities didn't come out until the 80s and 90s.
Right, right,
Heard that something like the AIDS
right,
pandemic or however you want crisis, whatever. I remember like reading like the news week, all that when AIDS was like when it first became a thing
right,
and them, and then you would find out that these celebrities who were like championing these causes for charity for AIDS, and you were like, why? And I remember being a kid, and I would be like, and my mom would be, I don't understand why they're doing it. I'm like, because they're gay,
right,
and because kids notice these things way more than
right,
adults do.
right, right,
Like Rock Hudson, who is one of my favorite actors of his time, like he literally was in the closet until he got AIDS.
right. Yeah,
That tells you something. And comic books are a reflection of our society. Comic books are a reflection of what is going on in the world today that they find injustice with, and then they write it to where these heroes change that injustice.
right,
It's a way of empowering themselves, the readers, and the kids who are like hopefully going to change the world and make it better when they get older because they have these heroes. The world is better than it was. Um, it's sad that we couldn't have him outed or let him be himself completely in a comic book in the 80s because
right,
it would have been frowned upon. Everybody
right,
knew it, but you
right,
can't actually let him date a guy
right,
until
right,
the 90s.
right. Well, in fact,
It's
the head
yeah.
editor of Marvel at the time definitely wouldn't have allowed that. Now he allowed the character to be written the way he was, but he was definitely not going to allow an outing like that to happen. So, well, we're running out of time with this, AJ. So as I knew we would, and we've got a lot to talk about, and basically you touched on something I want to talk about next time, pretty intently is the whole idea that North Star is a great example because you're right. He was written that way from the beginning. It was apparent even to me as an early teen reading these things. It's like, oh, okay, he likes guys. All right, move along. But you've got characters that were straight all the way through, and all suddenly we make changes to them to make it a political statement, or assuming that's what it is, because that's what it can look like to certain people. So we're going to
forced diversity or
Yeah.
or good storytelling. And I think, it is something that we're going to have like a whole hour to talk about this. Because the thing is sometimes it is forced diversity.
Right.
Sometimes it's just what I said just a minute ago, which is the times change
Right.
and the story have to change based on the time that we're
Sure.
in now.
Right.
So yeah, sometimes it's forced. Sometimes it's. I don't like it. Just so you guys know ahead of time that I don't like it necessarily when you take a character that is everything about this character. He's been around or she's been around forever, and then they change the personality of the character.
Right.
Don't them introducing new characters or like new alternative universe characters that are but a different universe that have different things. I don't mind that.
Right.
But yeah,
I'm with you.
It's the thing.
Because
So, yeah.
if you want to create a character like this, make a new character and just kind of so people know. One of my favorite characters is the new Miss Marvel. She is very diverse compared to a lot of other characters because she's Islamic. But she is a great character. She's written so well, and that's what I love about her. Is I think she's great.
Right. I love Miles Morales.
Yeah. Miles is awesome.
He's a different Spider-Man.
Right.
He is a different character. They didn't turn Peter Parker into, a person of color. They made a different character who's Spider-Man also.
Right.
I have a problem with those. Like we've talked about, changing characters is something that's hit or miss. But sometimes when you go forward, like I said, you couldn't have like maybe 2020 you can, but in like 2001, you wouldn't expect to see Captain America fighting the Nazis. He would fight bad guys, but not the Nazis because the Nazi is non-existent, or for the most part was non-existent in a world stage. And so you have to give him new bad guys. You have to expand it. And that's the thing. Like, but that's great storytelling if your characters can grow and they're not
exactly.
Once they become, if you only had Cap fight the Nazis, then Captain America wouldn't be a thing today.
Right.
If you only had Superman fight, Lex Luthor, he wouldn't have any other bad guys.
Kind of like the movies.
Oh my God. Yeah.
All right.
I'm sorry I've been talkative tonight.
Oh my gosh, no, this has been great, AJ. So we've got a few more comments. We're going to hit these real quick, and then we will do our little wrap up here. All right. So Keith's talking about Teen Titans from the 70s. I remember the Teen Titans from the 70s, East and West, and they were quite a diverse group. Heroes for Hire, Power Man, Iron Fist. Yeah, great characters. All of those, Keith. I'm with you. Wonder Woman of the 60s and 70s. Exactly. Very liberated woman. Even gave up her costume for a while. Did all sorts of things. Green Lantern, Green Arrow books were meant to play out different issues of the time. Yeah. And let's see. Alan Scott was rebooted to be gay. And that's true. I think that was actually with the Keith, was that the 90s? Or was that because I think it was his character in the 90s that way, or was it just his character after the new DC? Because I know the new DC version was, but I didn't know older Alan Scott was, but I could be wrong on that.
I thought it was the late 90s that he came out.
Yeah, I know when they rebooted everything and made the Earth 2 book, his character was. But I don't know. I know he had a couple of kids, but that doesn't mean anything. We all understand that. Captain America became Nomad. And that's true. I was going to talk about that, about the very Watergate-esque issues of Captain America, where he went and actually confronted the president and became the man with no country, Nomad. So those are things we will talk about on a later episode, maybe next week, maybe we'll come back to it most definitely, because it's a charged issue, talking about politics. But again, I think we did it in such a way where we're talking about certain issues. We're not talking about this party's good, that party's bad. We're not trying to tell people who to vote for. We're not trying to tell people being a conservative is bad, or being a liberal is bad, or being a libertarian is bad, or whatever. We're telling people that these are great ways to express yourself, but you have to know politics have been a part of comics from the beginning. The best ones, in my opinion, are the ones that actually tell you that story, and it comes in through the story. It doesn't, which can be in your face, but like the issue of Green Lantern, but it doesn't have to be in your face. A lot of times, the underlying stuff. My pastor used to say, "There's more caught than taught," and that was true of raising kids, but that's true in life. You learn more by seeing people's example than you do actually hearing people talk about it.
Right. I agree, and it's not just comics. Like I was saying, it's if you look just in pop culture, like TV and stuff, like all of it. If you go back and watch things from the 70s, just TV shows,
Mm-hmm.
politically different than like
Right.
Stu and I talk about the time. Some of the TV shows and some of the things we were watching the Golden Girls the other day.
Oh
The
yeah.
other day, and that were on the Golden Girls in the 80s, and that was they had gays on their show. They had
Mm-hmm.
people of color. They like they weren't in there all the time, but they did have them. But some of the things they say you couldn't say now,
Right.
and
Right.
like different time, and that's the whole point. The whole point is that political things change, but comic book heroes are always going to fight for injustice and fight
Right.
injustice,
Right.
fight the underdog, and fight for what's right. And that's the thing. That's the thing you
Well,
got to remember.
and sometimes because of their point of view, what that is, they might fight each other, which again
Yeah,
will lead to talking about Civil War and many other issues.
Magneto and Professor X are great
Yep.
things.
Yep.
They both have idea. They just have a different way of going about it. So yes.
So let's give some shout outs to our friends. Since we got Keith on here with us, let's hit his show first, because we love Keith. We've got
We do.
Keith and Gary over at Pop Culture Minefield, and as
They're on,
AJ says,
yeah, they're on YouTube. They're also on Facebook. You can check them out. I know Keith goes live and does Q&As. They have like great guests. They're not as PG or PG-13 as we are, but still great watch, great guys, and very knowledgeable. So go check them out.
and usually quite funny. I always laugh when I watch their show. And a lot of times it's laughing at Keith laughing.
Oh, he laugh like nobody else. Like he starts laughing, and it's just like he's gone for like five
Yeah.
minutes laughing. It's
Well,
amazing. He's just
Gary will say something off color, and Keith will just be like, "Oh my gosh," and start laughing, and I love that. So that's great. Let's go with the nerd informants next here.
we have Josh and Tim, the Nerd Informants, on YouTube, Facebook. I think they're on Twitter as well. But they bring you all kinds of things from game reviews to movie reviews when we have movies, which we're getting back to like hopefully next month. And they're just great guys, fun nerd. Like go find them on Facebook because their page has always got like they have up to the date news on anything nerdy, and they also do really funny things. So great guys, Tim and Josh. We love you.
We do. They are great guys. They're awesome. And let's go with Spoo.
We got our partner in the video thing. That's Scallywag Productions on YouTube. That is the Scallywag himself, Spoo Fair. And he is on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. He does a collectible of the day every day from his toy collection and mine because he takes pictures of my stuff too. But he seriously keeps posting things, and I'm like, that's mine. And he's like, it's in the house. But no, go check him out. He brings all kinds of weird videos. He just did the last series he did took like one of the videos took like 3 days to
Wow.
edit, and I'm taking 3 days. He didn't sleep for 3 days to edit. But he did a breakdown on like what is wrong with like certain movies and stuff like that. So go check him out if you like movies. He's the guy to go to.
So
And
we've
then
got enough. We've got enough geek nerd stuff here to keep you busy with just our friends. And there's other cool stuff out there, but make sure to check them out. And of course, don't forget to check us out because the new improved website, you should have already been seeing tons of new articles coming up. AJ posted a bunch yesterday. I posted a bunch of things yesterday. So we've got content flowing over there. Come check us out at GeekyKOOL.com. Remember, it's cool with a K, just like Cool in the Gang.
yep,
It,
GeekyKOOL.com, Facebook, Twitter. This goes on to YouTube. We do have a YouTube channel that these live streams go to. That's all that's on there. So if you've been watching us, you see it. But go check us out. Give us a subscribe. Also, if you're on YouTube, subscribe to Pop Culture Minefield. Subscribe to the Scallywag, and subscribe to the Nerd Informants, and subscribe to us. It helps us. It makes us know that you guys love us.
and that not only gets you able to know when new shows are coming out easier, it helps the actual creators because as much as you might think we make friends kind of money for each episode, we don't. So
Wait. There's money involved in this?
not that I've seen yet. I'm paying money out, but
that's basically it. But yeah, guys, check us out. Give us a like. And if you have any friends who like this geeky stuff and would like to share or anything like that, be sure to go to all of us and give us a like and everything. And also, if you want to write anything or be a part of Geeky Kool, see Professor there. He's the one you need to talk to. We are always looking for contributors. Whether you want to write a one-time article or you want to contribute all the time and become a staff writer.
if you have a place where you want to write 10 articles a day because you're so excited, we can help you out. And I can guarantee you my salary back.
Oh, that's where he
got. So, eventually, when we're these rich YouTubers and all that, and, people are paying us millions of dollars to put their articles on our site, that'll be great, but we're not there yet. So our buddy Keith has a few more things to say. So, about talking about him and Gary here. And then, of course, he agrees with us, Nerd Informants rock, and so does Shmoo. And he also thinks we rock. Thank you, Keith.
Keith, the professor is amazing. I'm just here. He has told me many times I'm just as window dressing.
I think you carried the show today, as you have the last two. You and the Scallywag carried the last 2 weeks easily. And I'm not even needed here, but I show up just because I get paid to do it. So.
Oh, well, thank you guys for watching. I'm going to go get some food because I haven't eaten today.
So get some food. This video will be up on GeekyKOOL.com later tonight, and look for more content there. Have yourself a wonderful night and stay geeky out there, guys.
Be kind. Be kind to each other.
Be kind. And actually, be excellent to each other. And party on, dudes.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, Professor.